Hi, my dear Astro family. So today we are going to be speaking about the Cancer new moon, which is taking place on the 29th of June, 3:52 a.m. British Summer Time, and it's going to be on 7 degree 22 minutes of Cancer. We have got loads to cover because this new moon will be having numerous aspects. One of them is going to be actually a square to Jupiter, but also we have got a conjunction to Black Moon Lilith, a conjunction to an asteroid called the Child. It trines Vesta, and then it also trines Hygeia. So we have got to learn about all these. But I also would like to make an announcement. I have launched my very first book, which is about vocational astrology, illuminating the path to a successful life. And basically, it is focusing on the 38 possible combination of the midheaven as well as the ascendant. And I'm trying to explain to you in there how to work with the midheaven, what type of traits you need to embrace if you want to be successful. So if you are interested in this book, I highly recommend it. It is for beginners as well as for those who are practitioners and they would like to have a different approach to their astrological interpretation. So check it out. I hope you will love it as much as I have loved preparing it. So let's get started with this lunation. Any new moon energy is about new beginnings. Somehow the energy level gets renewed. And because Cancer is about the home environment, family, our emotional safety net, our security level, but also how we express ourselves in an emotional way, as well as doing a little bit of a shadow work. These are the 5 areas where Cancer moon is going to be focusing the most on. Now, one of the things which struck me immediately is that the moon is actually out of bound. So I want to speak about that a little bit because whenever a planet is out of bound, it has got that Uranian flavor. It kind of like talks about intense feelings. It talks about, to a certain extent, kind of like this very intuitive nature. Now, Uranus is something to do with connecting with the higher mind. It wants to be disengaging from feelings. It wants to be kind of like becoming irrational as well from time to time. And why is that? Because Uranus is the natural ruler of the 11th house. So it's followed by Capricorn. Now, Capricorn is about the higher order, going towards a plan God had for us. And Uranus needs those divine insights to kind of know what those higher orders are to be able to follow. And when it gets combined with the moon, it's very much about listening to our gut feelings. Now, when our moon is out of bounds, sometimes what it indicates is that we choose to leave. We want to be walking away even from success, or we want to be leaving the stardom behind because let's say we want to be following our, I don't know, religious beliefs or whatever it is. A great example of that is Kurt Cobain or Cat Stevens. Both of them left their stardom because they wanted to follow their religious belief system. So this moon might want to be escaping from something. We're going to be looking at a lot deeper, so you might understand what we want to be running away from. Now, moon out of bound can indicate someone who is a kind of like a groundbreaking genius. And you know, what does genius mean? It kind of indicates that we can think outside of the box. We have got a unique talent or a quirky interest towards something. Out of bound moon tends to be breaking out of the social constructs. A good example for that is Arnold Schwarzenegger, who became eventually a governor, and he was an actor, right? So it's kind of like having this very quirky, not expected type of turnaround in our life. Yes, in a negative way, it can really talk about sociopath and criminal behavior also. Somehow being kind of indifferent towards universal laws of moral and ethical behavior. An example is, for instance, Edith Piaf, who was a French cabaret singer, and she was actually addicted to drugs. But also it could talk about theological outlaws, kind of like zany characters. It can be a little bit edgy or dangerous or very entertaining or delightful or funny and weird. Or sometimes Moon Out of Bound might feel out of this world. We kind of want to be leaving the boundaries of this world behind us. A very good example for this is Yuri Gagarin, who was the very first one to step on the moon, right? So he left the earthly boundaries overall. So this out of bound moon is kind of like, because depending on what house it falls into. But remember that all of a sudden I want to be leaving some emotions behind. Maybe if it happens in your fourth house, it kind of indicates that, you know what, I just want to leave home. And I don't want to be kind of, I don't know, picking up dirty socks, or I don't want to be, I don't know, for the time being, I don't want to be around 5 children, for instance. I just want to be having a day off if possible. And then, you know, after I go back to my duties. Now, this new moon actually is falling onto Virgo what? So most probably what we want to be running away from is any type of medical matters or work environment matters. The work environment can be a little bit hectic, maybe too busy, and I can't take it anymore. Or the work environment is too demanding. And also this could talk about anything to do with mundane responsibilities. So I want to be breaking away from my routines. My routines are not making me happy. So for instance, moon, which is pretty much talking about the body, with this out of bound moon, actually it could talk about outside of the body experiences. We need to be mentally stimulated somehow. Moon is kind of like the planet of communication. It's about verbalizing our feelings. So that Uranus actually helps there. I mean, there is no Uranus involved there, but that out of bound energy is a Uranian flavor to it. So also this chart is about ball-shaped chart. Now, if you start thinking about what a ball-shaped chart is, then it basically it indicates that all planets occupy half of the chart. For instance, it's between the 4th and the 9th house. Typically, the planets are within 180 degrees. It usually indicates that we feel empty. We are trying to find something or a partner who will balance us out. Kind of like indicating the planets being on the edge. And there is kind of like that missing contact with the other side of the world. And it also can indicate that I've got that missing element going on in my life as well. So this new moon is kind of stirring that emotion up that something is missing within me. A ball-shaped chart is sometimes about me and the rest of the world. So imagine that I'm seeing that people can, I don't know, go on vacation twice a year and I cannot go, and what the heck is going on? And then I'm starting to contemplate on it, and maybe I'm starting to feel depressed as well. And that would be coming from the out-of-bound moon energy as well as the Virgo world, and of course the Cancer sign too. It could also talk about that I'm missing a partner, and maybe I'm a single mom and I want someone on my side too. So it's very much about the ball-shaped chart is about looking for something which makes us complete. Yes, a ball-shaped chart, for instance, tends to be falling in love, like kind of like this platonic love often. And there is this little danger with this out of bound Cancer moon energy. Sometimes the ball-shaped chart cannot really live without a relationship. So there is an element of a codependency going on. And the leading planet here is actually Pluto, which is retrograde. So Pluto, whatever it touches, it kind of intensifies, but it invites us to make certain type of changes. In order for us to be embracing the Plutonian energy, we need to let go of something. We need to be looking at our resistance. And because it's retrograde, it really talks about somehow overcoming the inner stuff, something which within us. Now, the major aspect this lunation has is actually an exact square to Jupiter. It's just about 10 minutes apart. Now, from an archetypal point of view, Jupiter is very similar to the meaning of Sagittarius. Now, I am just preparing, actually, I've just prepared the slides for this weekend's class I'm holding on the Jupiter and Uranus cycle. And I started thinking about Sagittarius a little bit, which is a half a animal and half a human. So, of course, the human is the upper part of that centaur, which is really much about connecting with our animalistic side if we want to be actually embracing the higher meaning of life. And probably this is something Sagittarius needs to learn. It needs to be able to connect with that animal instinct. And what could be the animal instinct? It's about, I don't know, food or sex or being loved, or, you know, look at your primary needs. And I think the reason why I wanted to speak about this is because this Cancer lunation is really much about that emotional safety. What makes us happy? And we're going to have to kind of focus on that quite a lot. Now, the Jupiter squaring the moon, whatever Jupiter touches, it kind of overexpands it. So it really talks about that we might become quite emotional one overall. It's heightened by that Uranian flavor to it. Jupiter is squaring it. So definitely this new moon is extremely emotional. It's very sensitive. It wants to be you know, there is that kind of debate, because what happens is Jupiter is in the sign of Aries. It's ready to take action. It kind of says that, you know what, we've got so much to do, let's go. But then the moon in the sign of Cancer, it's very much about, okay, hold on a minute, you know, I want to be at home. I want to be in the bedroom. I want to be in the kitchen cooking something. Of course, we've got this great mother archetype, which is involved with the Cancerian energy. It has got the desire to nurture others. You know, with all this type of energy, I don't want to be a nurturer. I want to be nurtured. Think about Cancer as water coming out of our eyes as well. So it's about expressing our emotions. So there is a need, because it is falling onto Virgo what, which is one of the signs of communication. But typically the communication, which is not necessarily a raw type of communication, but kind of like a practice speech, if you like it. So it's about preparing ourselves for a communication with someone also, so I can be sharing my emotions with others. It's a very soulful position. It's very feeling orientated. So we can, with this Jupiter square, we can be very focused on our kind of like inner child. Now, the symbol of Cancer is a crab, which is very much about the inner world, which needs to be protected. It kind of needs a shell. So this Jupiter actually can magnify that and then say, you know what, no, I need to be protecting myself. And I'm going to be like a warrior. Jupiter in the sign of Aries. I'm going to be kind of like a warrior. And the crab only reveals itself when it feels safe. So it's about home and family. We have got a desire to nurture. We want to heal. We want to grow through protection, encouragement, and love. If you think about Cancer, well, it's a water sign, and water nurtures life. We water plants. We drink water. Our body contains 70%. I mean, 70% of our body is actually made of water, which is really much about how important it is to nurture our body. And that's why moon represents the body, the physical body, as well as the spiritual body, if you like it. Now, the fact in moon, when it comes to the living conditions, it wants to be having a relaxed and comfortable home. And then Jupiter squaring that could indicate that, you know what, I want to have a bigger home. We don't have enough space now. It wants to be having a cozy and safe aura around the home environment. It wants to be having lots of memorable decoration like gifts and memories and pictures of others. And then with that Jupiter, actually, we might be looking at old photos, going back on a memory lane. Cancer moon tends to be appreciating antiques or things passed down throughout the years from different type of generations. And I think what could happen here is that if I'm hurt, then I go back to my shell. And I'm not going to be talking about it, but you should remember that Jupiter is on 7 degrees, so that's a Gemini dot. We're going to have to learn to speak up on any type of hurt feelings we have got. You know, it's very much about how can I feel loved again. It's about avoiding confrontation because bitterness builds up within us eventually. And is it good to avoid confrontation all the times? You know, the crab has got their claws that clamp down and bolt onto things. So this could really talk about kind of like getting stuck and holding on to something which actually not serving us anymore. And that needs to be let go. And we're going to speak about that again when we get to the Black Moon Lilith part anyway. And also it's about holding grudges as well in a negative way. So am I actually frustrated with someone? And that could be a topic to explore here. Now, the fact that Jupiter is getting involved here, which is very much about wanting to have adventure, it's about our philosophical point of view, the continuous search to meaning to life. You know, it talks about higher education, whether it's self-guided or formal type, but you know, I want to be studying, for instance, but maybe the family environment doesn't necessarily allows that. So Jupiter represents the guru, someone who gives us wisdom. So shall I listen to what my family has got to say to me, or shall I listen to my spiritual guide? And I don't know who to believe, because this is a square, right? So it causes or creates an inner tension within us. You know, Jupiter tends to believe that we have got only one true way. And probably we're going to have to realize that, you know what, we can be merging whatever the family and, for instance, my sport coach, Jupiter, in the sign of Aries, tell me. And then I have to be finding the middle road there. Maybe Jupiter wants to travel. And then the Cancer moon says, oh, let's just travel within the country. But Jupiter wants to go on an international trip. So which one shall I do? Jupiter is about celebration of life. It's about euphoria. So I kind of feel like that this is a really big, pretty much an urge to kind of get out of your home environment a little bit. I think Jupiter square empowers you to try to move forward in any of these kind of areas. Also, this new moon has got a semi-sextile to Venus. Very exact, almost an exact aspect, actually. Again, just kind of like 10 minutes apart. And the semi-sextile is a series-related aspect, which is, again, about nurturing and motherhood. And it wants you to kind of nurture your relationships with others, as well as your creativity, finances, and kind of like listening to what you like doing, if you like. Venus is in the sign of Gemini. So Gemini is about variety, right? So it's about kind of like having a little bit of a balance between our interests. Now, the next aspect, which I'm pretty much seeing here, is a conjunction to Black Moon Lilith. And that is a very tight one. Now, let's just talk about Black Moon Lilith. I don't recall if I've ever spoken about Black Moon Lilith. But Black Moon Lilith is actually the pair of the moon. It kind of shows or displays the dark part of our, the dark part of the moon, basically, if you like it. So if we say that moon is the planet which represents the key to happiness in our life, then black moon Lilith would be the counterpart of that, and then it kind of shows the shadow side. But it also talks about a parallel world, and I wanted to talk about that just for 2 seconds, because the out of bound planet is also an indication of a parallel world. So it's kind of like the feeling that I don't want to belong here. I want to be somewhere else. I kind of feel like I'm itchy. Lilith reflects the fearsome side of our lives, why we are not happy. You should remember it's actually a fixed point in the chart. It's the moon's furthest point from Earth, and that's going to be the Lilith position. Its position in our horoscope is kind of like the blind spot, an invisible wallpaper, a gateway between our lower and upper world. So I feel like this new moon, in a sense, is very spiritual of how I'm going to be connecting between the lower and the upper worlds. And remember that the ball-shaped chart's leading planet is also Pluto, which is the light from the tunnel. And how I'm going to find that light, and how I'm going to kind of follow that inner, how I'm going to follow that path so that I can step on the light. Now, Black Moon Lilith is also called as the child abuser or a child killer. It talks about a female demon, not so much mentioned in the Bible as far as I know, but she was the very first wife of Adam who kind of got rejected. So she decided to seductively becoming a dangerous woman, if you like it, and people were afraid of her because she posed a threat to men at night, sorry. So Black Moon Lilith is about intensity, crisis situations. It does indicate surgeries and injuries, so we do need to be careful, actually, especially at home injuries, kind of like while you are cooking, for instance. Remember, it's on Virgo dwarves, so it's kind of like your everyday activities, but kind of like going to the gym, for instance, where you go every day, and then I don't know, you get an injury, or we can have a little bit of a stomach pain. We do need to be kind of careful about that. But Black Moon Lilith is about family traumas. And because it's conjuncting the asteroid called the Child, I really much feel like that it's about awakening the inner child's desire within us and overcoming some family traumas. Black Moon Lilith wants to escape from things. It tends to oppress things, or it has got resentments going on. And I'm very angry, and then I'm angry because I got rejected. So it's very much about what type of situation you want to be running away from. Now, of course, this Black Moon Lilith tightly conjuncting actually Cancer. It's really talking about emotional isolation. It's about learning to appreciate yourself regardless of your origin or family or your mundane duties. It's about helping others, but also clearly there is a need of help for yourself too. It's about letting go the fear that you need to love and help others to be loved. Do you have that? Do you have any type of traumatic family story which you need to be overcoming? Maybe it's a tension where we're going to have a little bit of an argument over, I don't know, how to cook, for instance, stuffed chicken, with my grandma or with my mom. It's about how are you victimized? It's about a breath of freedom you need to have, but I kind of feel like that I'm paying a higher price for it. And that's what the inner conflict can within us. Or maybe it can also bring up topics that I'm still living with my mom, and then I don't know, I'm 40 years old. What the heck is going on? or it could talk about kind of like the mother and the child relationships. And unfortunately, that might be rocky for some of you around this time, around this lunation cycle. Or you might feel like that you have to be, I don't know, sparing your mom. You have to be kind of sharing with someone because, you know, or you might feel that I am unable to share myself anymore. You know, it's just getting way too much. Sometimes we want to be going back into our shell because reality is too harsh. Or I want to be escaping into a relationship, uh, or I escaped into a relationship at an early age, for instance, which I'm going to be regretting this time around. So it could be that, for instance, your mother-in-law is going to be quite domineering around this new moon cycle. Or I just feel like I want to be crying quite a lot, but especially when others don't see me. Because Cancer is a cardinal energy, so it does have got some type of pride or strength to it. And it's very important to somehow learn to express our anger overall. Now, this moon actually conjuncts an asteroid called Child. So I wanted to kind of give you a little bit about that, but it's a very easy asteroid because it talks about the child within you. Now, if you want to be looking up your own chart, then its astrological number is 4580. So you can do that on astro.com. So this child asteroid is very much about our inner child. If you want to kind of look up someone's childhood, obviously you are always going to be looking at the 5th house, but also you're going to be looking at the moon, and you can look at this asteroid also. Because these three are going to be talking about how your childhood was like, if you like it. But I kind of believe that this asteroid is about our inner child. It's about, we all have got our inner child, right? We all have got kind of like what we wanted to become as a child. I wanted to be a pilot, or I wanted to be a teacher, or whatever it is. So it's very much about getting in touch with the inner child, or getting in touch with a dream we had around that time. Sometimes what happens is that people try to shut down their inner child. Why? Because they experienced abuse, or they were, you know, physical abuse, mental abuse, whatever it is, but we want to be shutting that down. We don't want to be looking back into the past. And I feel like this new moon really invites you to look at the past. It will want to kind of open up some of the wounds within you so that you go on a healing journey. I've seen this inner kind of like this child asteroids who are very open to animals. So of animals and children especially, of course. So this could really talk about, you know, that I want to be working with children, for instance, or I want to be somehow just go to a shelter to save a dog, and all those type of things. Something that there is this, because think about it, a child is a defenseless creature, right? And it's very much about, I'm seeing, for instance, a stray dog on the street, and somehow my heart starts melting. So it's kind of like we have got this stony heart which starts melting when it gets activated. So the fact that this lunation is conjuncting this asteroid, it really talks about that something kind of like the stony heart is going to melt away, and then it wants you to reconnect with that vulnerable side of yours. So it does talk about the nature of your own childhood. It wants to be connecting with, it wants you to kind of feel like a child. So play around, go there, and, you know, focus on things such as I don't know, I want to be on the playground running around like chicken without heads or whatever it is. How am I going to be playful? How am I going to feel like a child again? And that's going to be one of the most important meaning of this asteroid for you this time around. For instance, my inner child asteroid is on 10 degree of Aries, and Jupiter is actually transiting it now. And why it's interesting is because firstly, it's in my second house. And I remember, I told you the story, guys, but I was born into quite a poor family, but I made a promise to myself that I am going to be breaking away from it. And one of the longest desires I've had, or I had as a child, was to become a teacher. But secondly, I've always wanted to practice martial art, or I wanted to kind of have a martial arts school. And I'm going to be opening my martial arts school within a couple of weeks. So some of the dreams are coming true, you know, or at least the manifestation of that. Now, of course, Jupiter was also transiting it approximately about 13 years ago, which was something to do with 2010. And that's when I became a business manager of a restaurant. And that was a dream since since age of 18. So I kind of feel like when Jupiter transits this inner child point in your chart, for instance, it really gives you the opportunity to become who you wanted to become as a child. And this time around, definitely, this lunation is actually emphasizing on that. Now, the next aspect you can see with this is actually a trine to Vesta. Now, Vesta is actually on 3 degree, in the sign of Pisces. Do I remember where? Sorry, let me just quickly check that. 6 degrees, sorry. 6 degree, high GA is going to be on 4 degree. So 6 degree of Pisces. So Vesta is kind of like a high priestess energy. So it's very much about devoting our time to some spiritual evolutionary process overall. It's about selfless service. It's about contribution of your time, energy, and maybe financials to a worthy cause, or the desire to somehow serve the greater good. But I think the fact that Jupiter is in the sign of Aries, which is a very self-centered energy, it does talk about the need to kind of like having a little bit of having a harmony in there, if that kind of makes sense. I kind of feel like that when Vesta is connecting to the moon, it's about focusing on the physical body, but from a spiritual perspective. So it's very much about how to feed the spiritual body so that the physical body can also heal. And these are some of the topics I would like you to concentrate with that Vesta this time around. Also, let me just quickly double check my notes because I kind of have a feeling I left something out. Just 2 seconds. I've lost my notes. Yes, one more thing which I wanted to mention here is because Vesta is about devotion to something. So it also talks about such topics like, for instance, I want to be the wife of a god, or I want to be doing witchcraft, kind of like using some ceremonial object. So this time around, this new moon, I kind of recommend checking out what type of ceremonial ceremony you can do. It could talk about why I'm focused on the past way too much. Why am I living in the past? Why do I need to be devoted to family, traditions, or children? Maybe it's kind of like I never want to get married again because I want to be protecting my child. Maybe this is what you need to be liberating yourself from. It might be about that you have given up on your feminine power in order for keeping the flame somewhere else. Is that the case? Then there is a chance here to kind of overcome that. It could talk about, especially with Black Moon Lilith and Vesta. These are sexual archetypes. So why do we have fear of intimacy? Where are our sexual blockages coming from? It might be about being a little bit health conscious as well. So on a mundane level, some yeah, the spread Jupiter square of some type of medical matters could be actually expected. So we shouldn't be ready for that. And the very last aspect I kind of wanted to touch base on, that the fact that we have got a trine to Hygeia, and that is on almost 4 degrees of Scorpio. Now, Hygeia is asteroid number 10. It was actually discovered in 1849, and it really talks about practice. So, like daily practices, like for instance, you brush your teeth, or you clean after cooking, or you flush the toilets. So it's very much about prevention of health matters. So very interesting, because she has got a couple of other names. Actually, well, a few of them. Sanity, which the word comes from sanitus, and that talks about health. So it's about preventing action we should take to have mental, emotional, and spiritual balance overall. Hygeia has got this future forward thinking. So it's about preventing sickness and preserve health. Another name she has got is Valetudo, which is about personal health, and also Salus, which is about salvation, safety, welfare, but also salt. So the salvation word, which I kind of got hung up on for a second, because salvation is about liberation from something. It's about kind of like saving yourself, if you like it. So what do you need to save yourself from? Hygeia's symbol is 2 snakes wrapped around a rod, and that rod is actually the staff of Hermes. So there is an element of a protection of information, but also an information which wants to come to us. There's another symbol for Hygeia, and that's a snake with a star above it. But the snake is a regeneration. That's one of the animals, or maybe the only animals, which can be very poisonous, but you need the poison to also cure yourself. So it really talks about that you are poisoning your own life, and you are the only one who can actually heal that. And the trine is giving you an opportunity to find that antidote to your life. So thank you everyone for your attention. I hope you have loved this mini reading. See you soon with another video. Bye-bye.